President Trump has approved plans for America to join Israel's attacks on Iran, but is said to still be making a final decision on whether to go ahead with that.
In the spring of 2025, the Middle East crossed a line. What began as decades of shadow warfare between Israel and Iran has now turned into an open military confrontation. Missiles, drones, and airstrikes are hitting real targets in real cities, and civilians are caught in the middle. This isn't a battle of rhetoric anymore. This is war. In this video, we're breaking down exactly what's happening, from the airstrike that ignited the fire to the latest missile strikes on civilian infrastructure. We'll also explore how this could draw in other powers, like the United States, Russia, and regional players, and what it could mean for the future of global security. Stay tuned to the end as we analyze the real risk of nuclear escalation, economic fallout, and the humanitarian disaster unfolding on the ground. This isn't just another conflict. It may be the turning point of 21st century geopolitics. Let's begin. To understand today's war, we have to go back decades. Iran and Israel have been locked in a shadow war since the early 2000s. Iran backs proxy groups like Hezbollah, Hamas, and Shia militias in Syria and Iraq. Israel, meanwhile, has carried out covert assassinations, cyber attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities, and hundreds of airstrikes across Syria and Lebanon targeting Iranian arms. But until now, most of this has happened in the shadows. Both sides pushed the boundaries, but neither wanted open war. Israel feared Iran's growing nuclear ambitions. Iran viewed Israel as a regional aggressor and Western pawn. The two sides have spent years attacking one another indirectly, never officially admitting to their actions. All of this built up pressure, and in 2025, the dam broke. The killing of senior Iranian commanders by Israel on foreign soil was too direct, too bold. Iran could no longer hide behind proxies. What had been a Cold War became a hot one. On April 1, 2025, Israel launched a precision airstrike on the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria. The attack killed senior officials of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, including Major General Mohammad Reza Zahedi, a powerful commander involved in Iran's military operations across the region. This strike was unprecedented. Not only did it take out top military brass, but it also violated international norms by targeting a diplomatic building, technically Iranian sovereign soil. Iran saw it as a direct challenge, a message that Israel was ready to escalate. And for Tehran, this could not go unanswered. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei vowed revenge. The streets of Tehran filled with mourners chanting death to Israel. The message was clear: retribution was coming. But unlike in the past, it wouldn't come through proxies. Iran's government began planning a direct strike from its own territory, something it had never done before in its conflict with Israel. The world watched, tense. Intelligence services warned of incoming escalation. No one could have predicted how fast and how devastating it would be. On the night of April 13 to 14, 2025, Iran made history and shocked the world. In a move that defied decades of indirect warfare, Iran launched more than 300 drones and ballistic missiles directly from its own territory toward Israeli cities. The targets were both symbolic and strategic: Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Beersheba, and military bases across the Negev. Israel's advanced defense systems, the Iron Dome, David Sling, and Arrow interceptors, were activated in full force. While most of the missiles and drones were shot down, a few slipped through, causing damage and civilian injuries. The key point wasn't the scale of the destruction, it was the message. We're not using proxies anymore. This is Iran versus Israel, direct. It marked the first time in modern history that Iran had fired directly on Israeli soil from Iranian territory. Global powers scrambled to respond. The UN called for restraint. But it was clear the red line had been crossed. The shadow war was over. The real one had begun. Israel's response was swift, calculated, and deadly. Within 24 hours of the Iranian barrage, the Israeli Air Force launched Operation Sandstorm, targeting Iran's nuclear infrastructure and military sites deep within the country. Using long-range jets, refueling aircraft, and satellite-guided munitions, Israeli forces hit facilities in Arak, Natanz, and Kondab, all key components of Iran's nuclear program. In parallel, Israel conducted covert cyber operations believed to be led by Mossad, disrupting missile launch systems and disabling radar arrays. Iranian officials admitted to partial damage at nuclear sites, but independent reports suggest extensive destruction, especially in underground facilities. For Israel, the objective was clear: disrupt Iran's ability to retaliate further and deal a major blow to its nuclear ambitions. This wasn't just revenge, this was strategic warfare. Iran, now under attack in its own territory, called the strikes acts of war and promised an even stronger response. And just like that, the tit-for-tat cycle spun into something far more dangerous. As military strikes intensified, civilians began to suffer. On June 19, an Iranian missile struck Soroka Medical Center in Beersheba, one of southern Israel's largest hospitals. The missile caused severe structural damage. Dozens were injured: patients, doctors, and bystanders. Emergency services scrambled to evacuate parts of the hospital. In Iran, Israeli airstrikes have hit infrastructure around Tehran, Isfahan, and Avaz. Civilian neighborhoods near targeted nuclear facilities were also affected. Thousands fled the capital, fearing further strikes, with social media flooded by footage of blackouts, explosions, and gridlock. Humanitarian organizations are sounding alarms. Internet access in large parts of Iran has gone down. Supply chains are disrupted. Hospitals in both countries are overwhelmed, not just by casualties, but by fear. For civilians, this war is more than politics. It's about staying alive. Schools are closed. Air raid sirens are part of daily life. And both governments are bracing for more. What began as military retaliation is rapidly becoming a full-scale humanitarian crisis. The world has not stayed silent. The United States is at the center of global concern. President Trump, now deep into his second term, is facing massive pressure from both allies and military advisors. In public statements, he's said, all options are on the table, but no green light has yet been given for U.S. military involvement. Iran has issued direct warnings to Washington. If you join this war, there will be irreversible consequences. Russia, meanwhile, has offered to mediate, accusing the West of fueling the escalation. China has urged both sides to show restraint, but has condemned the Israeli strikes on nuclear sites as provocative. In Europe, leaders are scrambling. The UK, France, and Germany are preparing for mass evacuations from embassies and have called emergency UN Security Council sessions. Protests have erupted in multiple cities across the Middle East, with massive demonstrations in Iraq, Lebanon, and Yemen, demanding retaliation against Israel and support for Iran. Global oil markets are unstable. Air travel in the region is being rerouted. This is no longer just a regional war. The entire world is watching and reacting. While the missiles grab headlines, the economic fallout is spreading quietly, but fast. Global oil prices have surged by nearly 15% since the start of the conflict, with Brent crude nearing $110 per barrel. Why? The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway between Iran and Oman, is responsible for nearly 20% of the world's oil supply. Any disruption here could send shockwaves through the global economy. Meanwhile, the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange has taken a serious hit, and international investors are pulling out of Middle Eastern markets. In Iran, the rial is plummeting, sanctions are tightening, and public trust in the regime's ability to protect the homeland is eroding. Israel, facing constant rocket fire, is diverting billions to defense and emergency infrastructure. The military draft has expanded. Thousands of reservists have been called up. Shipping lanes in the Red Sea and Persian Gulf are under threat. And companies with operations in the region, especially tech and energy firms, are issuing red alerts to staff and stockholders. The bottom line? Even if diplomacy returns tomorrow, the economic damage is already global. This is the question no one wants to answer, but everyone is thinking about. Could this war go nuclear? Israel has never confirmed or denied having nuclear weapons, but it is widely believed to possess 80 to 100 nuclear warheads, with delivery systems including aircraft, submarines, and ballistic missiles. Iran insists its nuclear program is peaceful, but enriched uranium levels and covert activity have long raised alarms. The recent Israeli strikes targeted key parts of Iran's nuclear infrastructure, a clear sign that Jerusalem believes Iran is getting too close to building a bomb. If Iran accelerates its enrichment in response, Israel may feel it has no choice but to launch a decisive first strike, not with nukes but with bunker-busting bombs aimed at underground sites. And if Iran retaliates massively, perhaps with missiles toward Dimona, the suspected location of Israel's nuclear facility, the path to nuclear war becomes frighteningly real. The IAEA is calling for immediate inspections. The UN is warning of catastrophic consequences. One wrong move, one miscalculation, one rogue general, and we could be staring at a nuclear flashpoint in the 21st century. So what happens next? That depends on three things. Whether the US decides to intervene militarily, whether Iran escalates beyond missiles, possibly activating Hezbollah or targeting Gulf states, whether diplomacy, through Russia, China, or the UN, manages to force a ceasefire. Right now, the outlook isn't promising. Israel has vowed to degrade Iran's war machine, and Iran has declared total resistance until Israel ends aggression. There are rumors of new fronts opening in Lebanon and Yemen. In Iraq, Iranian-aligned militias are already mobilizing. On social media, both governments are using propaganda to rally their people. But real people, families, children, the elderly, are the ones suffering. Aid agencies are preparing for the worst: mass displacement, refugee waves, and medical crises. The longer this drags on, the greater the danger of regional collapse. The world stands at a crossroads. Will cooler heads prevail, or are we witnessing the beginning of a far larger war that could shape the next decade? This war didn't start in a day, and it won't end easily. Iran and Israel have hated each other for years, but now the gloves are off. The missiles are real, the deaths are real. The consequences could be historic. This isn't just a conflict between two countries, it's a global crisis waiting to explode. The next 48 hours could decide whether this war stays contained or breaks the world. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think peace is possible, or is the worst yet to come? Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video.